Hey, did you guys hear that?
What?
How different the wind noise was when I changed the position of my hand out the window.
Oh, that.
When I had my palm facing the wind, it was really pushing my arm back. But when I turned my hand so that it faced the ground, it was hardly pushing my arm. Why would that happen?
Well, it's all a matter of friction. When your hand was facing towards the wind, you were creating resistance to the wind. And when your hand was facing towards the street, you were lessening that resistance. Friction is the resistance of an object that's moving along the surface of another object. It can help things start to move or stop moving. I'll explain a little bit more when we get to Derby Downs. Here we are. Inside this new barn, they have an exhibit of soapbox derby racers from every era. Let's go check it out.
Wow, some of these cars look a whole lot different than the one I'm building.
Well, they look something like the cars they were building at that time. The soapbox derby started in 1933, and cars have changed a lot since then.
I'll say, look at this one. It's kind of like a box on wheels.
Well, duh. Why do you think they call it the soapbox derby?
Well, that's exactly what I wanted you to see. See how the front end of this car is pretty square and boxy? Well, when it went down the course, it probably met a lot of wind resistance or friction. So the older one is probably a lot slower than the newer ones. Like, take a look at this one, built a few years later.
The nose is pointy compared to that old one.
Right, so which one probably went down the hill faster?
I'm sure it was this one.
You're right. This one's faster because it was more aerodynamic. The design improvement allowed this car to meet less friction than the older one.
I was watching a show on car racing the other day. They were showing some cars racing at Daytona Beach. They were racing, but it didn't look like they were going as fast as they do today.
That's right, they weren't. See, there wasn't just a difference in power between the older cars and the cars that we race today. There's also a difference between the body designs and the conditions that they were riding under.
What do you mean?
Those early Daytona 500s were racing the same cars people drove on the streets. They weren't specially designed race cars. They also ran partly on city streets and partly on the packed down sand of the beach. And when they were on the beach, there was a lot of wind blowing at them from the ocean. Today, the Daytona 500 is on a 2.5-mile high-banked paved racetrack, several miles from the ocean, and cars are specially built race cars.
They go almost 200 miles at Daytona.
That's right. It takes the race teams a lot of preparation to make those cars that fast. During the winter, they bring the cars to the track to test them. Part of the testing is to help them come up with the most efficient body design so they can build up a faster speed.
If they put modern engines into the original race cars, would they be able to go as fast as the modern ones?
Well, they could probably go faster than they did in the old days, but probably not as fast as the new racers. Can you figure out why?
I guess the old cars met more wind resistance or friction, just like my hand out the car window when my palm faced the wind.
You're absolutely right. Today's cars are designed to meet less wind resistance, the friction that slows them down.
This soapbox derby racer looks a whole lot like the one I'm building. Its nose looks like it could cut through the wind, a lot better than those older ones.
Just like the Daytona 500 cars, your soapbox derby racers have evolved into efficient machines, able to go faster and faster because they meet less friction. This seems like a good time to slip in some classroom activities about friction.
Building it, we looked for a design that was aerodynamic so that we would have the best chance, and keeping the car as tight as possible, making sure all the screws are tightened down, waxing the car, the paint, and staying low, staying flexible so that there wasn't any hump in my back while I was going down the hill that would drag with the wind. I stretched constantly. Like if I was on the phone, I was trying to, work on my flexibility. If I was watching TV, any chance I got.
I stretched every morning. I had a whole routine. It took me 15 minutes of stretching exercises just to get in the car. I did 15 minutes in the morning, a little bit when I came home from school, and then again before I went to bed at night. And every day my dad measured me to see how low I could get.
Since we're in Akron, I have a little surprise for you guys.
What?
Ice cream? You buying?
Maybe later. Actually, I was going to take you over to the University of Akron, to the engineering lab where we're building the cars. And I'd let you meet some of my classmates to show you what we're doing.
All right.
Cool.
Well, here we are.
Wow, this is really tight.
So now we can see what was built from the models that you showed us earlier.
Right. Here we have 3 different types of cars. A mini formula car, a mini Baja car, and a super mileage car.
I like the Formula car best. It looks like a real race car.
It is a real race car.
The body design looks like it would cut through the wind resistance really well.
Oh, it does. But there's another bit of friction that helps the performance of the car as well.
What's that?
The tires. You see, each car has a different style of tire designed to better respond to the friction of the surface that they drive on.
Oh, yeah, now I see the difference. But what are they all designed to do?
Well, take a look at the Formula car over here. Do you notice a difference between these tires and the tires on your family car?
There are no treads on those tires.
Right. These are called slicks. You see, the rubber is softer on these tires. This creates more friction between the tires and the smooth pavement that they race on. A place where a driver really wants more friction is when he's pulling into the pits. More friction will slow him down for a safe pit stop.
What are these big knobby tires on the Baja car?
Well, the Baja tires are designed to run along the unimproved dirt roads in the Baja California Peninsula in Mexico. They create friction between the tire and the dirt by grabbing into the dirt.
Well, why are the tires on this car so skinny?
Well, for this car, we wanted to go for the highest gas mileage possible. So the tires are designed to cut down on friction. They aren't for speed, but for efficiency. Hey, you guys want to meet some of the guys who built the cars?
Great.
Yeah, sure.
What's the most important thing to do when you're designing the body of the car?
Well, actually, a lot of what we take into consideration is friction with the air. Aerodynamics, we try to design it so the air flows over it so it doesn't slow the car down that much.
Well, why does this car have such skinny tires?
Well, we want to limit the amount of friction we have on the road. We only need enough to keep it, to start it going and to make it go around turns. Any other extra friction hinders our performance of the car.
This is so cool. How fast will this car go?
The car actually goes over 100 miles an hour, but typically in our competition we see speeds between 55 and 60 miles an hour.
What are the brakes like on this car?
Very good. We actually stop quicker than a Viper does.
Why are brakes really important on this car?
When typically the way the course is set up, we have a straightaway and then we have a corner at the end of the straightaway. You want to get going as fast as you possibly can during that straightaway. Then you have to slow down as fast as you can to go around the corner.
I've really seen these cars jump.
Yeah, jumping is one of the more interesting parts of this competition, but in all reality, we like to keep the tires on the ground because you can't accelerate unless the tires are actually in contact with the ground.
Where's the body on this car?
Well, since every bit of mass on the car takes energy for it to accelerate, we try to keep the car as lightweight as possible. Since we don't really have many aerodynamic concerns with this vehicle, we just try to limit ourselves to the minimum amount of body to keep the dirt off the driver.
So you can see from all this that friction will either speed things up or slow things down.
Just like when I'm ice skating. I cut my blade into the ice to create friction between my skate and the ice, to push off. And I do the same thing to stop.
Yeah, when you're not colliding with me to stop.
Ha ha.